Building a successful Alexa skill can involve thousands of design decisions. While some of these choices are obvious, others, like optimal length of a voice prompt to drive paid subscription, aren't always so clear. Welcome to this Alexa Tech Talk. My name is Tejashree and I'm a software development manager on the Alexa skill experimentation team. When I'm not experimenting with Alexa skills, I'm experimenting with moves on a chessboard.
I'm Harshali and I'm a software development engineer with Alexa experimentation team. I'm also an avid painter and board game fanatic.
We would like to introduce you to a new service we recently launched, Alexa Skills A/B Testing Service. With this, you can improve your skill engagement, increase paid conversions, and earn more money. In today's talk, we will introduce you to Skills A/B testing, its application in endpoint-based A/B testing. How will you benefit from it as a skill builder, and how will your customers benefit? Finally, we will share experiences of your peers who have used this service and provide you with resources to get started.
What is A/B testing? A/B testing, also known as split testing or bucket testing, is a method of comparing two experiences or versions against each other to determine which one performs better. Performance evaluation can be done on different set of metrics dependent on what you want to achieve with the experience change. Let's check the parameters of A/B testing and how A/B testing works in general. First off, we will talk about how A/B testing works in general and then explore A/B testing for Alexa skills. In A/B testing, an experiment is created with two versions, A and B. A version is the current experience called as control treatment. B version is the new experience we want to test, known as T1 treatment. An experiment is created based on hypothesis. A/B testing allows you to decide how many customers would be part of an experiment. In this example, if you have 100 active customers and traffic exposure is set to 40%, then you are including 40 customers in your test. In this case, the test includes 20 customers in your control group and 20 customers in your T1 group. The remaining 60 customers aren't included in your test and receive the default behavior equivalent to control. However, they do not contribute to the test metrics. After the metrics are gathered and analyzed, you will be able to take a decision on which version works better for you and dial up that version so that all customers are routed to the better experience. If you want more data points, you can increase the exposure of the experiment, or if you see the degraded experience, you can dial down the experiment. Now that you have understanding on A/B testing, let's talk about A/B testing for Alexa skills. We are excited to introduce endpoint-based A/B testing to our skill builders to increase their customer engagement and conversions of this skill. So, what is endpoint-based A/B testing? In endpoint-based A/B testing, you will use single version of a live skill to run your A/B test. You define your control and treatment experiences by adding conditional statements to your skill code. These statements effectively branch your skill into control and T1 versions. The experiences can be changes in intent response, Alexa presentation language, that is APL displays, or in skill purchasing prompts. We will talk more about these in upcoming slides, along with how to set up an experiment. Once the experiment starts, you can evaluate metrics such as customer friction, ISP offers, skill utterances, etc. Using these metrics, you will be able to take a decision to which version works better for you and your customers, and then dial up this experience.
Let's look at some benefits of A/B testing and why should you use it. A/B testing is effective because, first of all, it complements existing testing framework. Currently, you can test your skills while they are in development using testing tools on the dev console. You can also get feedback from beta users or your family and friends on development stage of the skill. However, with A/B testing, we are introducing a new way to get data on skill quality from actual customers. Secondly, it promotes rapid iterations. You can rapidly test multiple iterations with smaller set of customers, thus minimizing risk of an experiment impacting a larger sample. Making rapid continuous improvements to a skill will improve the skill over time. Moreover, it uses actual customers. You do not need to set up your skill in staging or beta test. Experiments can be performed using live customer data, thus obtaining real-time responses. This real traffic can also help address cases you may not consider during quality assurance testing. Finally, it focuses on data driven decision making. It eliminates guesswork from making decisions and lets you prove or disprove your hypothesis. Why should you use our A B testing service? First and foremost, customer engagement, retention, paid conversions would increase. You can design experiments for monumental improvements or small incremental changes to improve customer engagement, retention, and conversion. We've identified top key metrics that you can observe to make informed decisions to achieve this goal. You can observe key metrics like customer friction, next day retention, or skill utterances for both control and treatment. Moreover, high quality experience is dialed up with reduced experiment setup time. You can continuously improve your skills endpoint code while ensuring that the newer experience improves skill quality for end customers. Most importantly, you can create these experiments with our A/B testing service instead of setting up one by yourself. This would reduce time and effort needed to set up the experiment. By using our A/B testing service instead of creating an in-house solution, you can reduce time to set up experiments from weeks to merely a few hours. Finally, you have increased confidence in decision making. You can now experiment with different experiences by controlling percentage of customers who are exposed to it. When you're sure that your test option is improving key metrics and not regressing customer experience, you can release the new experience to all customers. This gives you the confidence that you're making the right decision before unveiling a new experience to your entire customer base. You no longer have to be a statistician or an expert in A/B testing to get started and achieve such a high confidence in your decisions. Now that you know the benefits of this service for skill builders, let's look at how you can improve the release cycle for your endpoint code. The main issue with current deployment cycle on endpoint code is that it is all or nothing. When endpoint code is deployed, it is available to all customers at the same time, and you have to review data and metrics to observe improvements or degradation to customer experience. This leads to hesitancy on part of skill builders to update endpoint frequently or to keep experimenting with new customer experience changes because there is no way to control the impact of the change. With A/B testing, you can control percentage of exposure for the new experience. Say if you run an experiment with 10% of your exposure instead of all customers, then 5% of your customers will experience the control behavior and 5% would experience the new treatment behavior. The other 90% would not be affected by this A/B test and their experience would be similar to customers in the control set. If you observe the metrics and find the new experience leads to customer friction, you can stop the A/B test at any time. If you're happy with the A/B test at 5% of the actual traffic, you can decide to increase the traffic exposure to the new iteration slowly or even just dial up the new feature for all 100% of your customers. You can also use A/B test to confirm your hypothesis before changing customer behavior. Say you have an hypothesis that funnier prompts may increase customer retention for your skill. You have a solid customer base and want to test out your hypothesis first. You can set up an experiment with control set of prompts and a funnier set of prompts for experiment. You can expose a small percentage like 5% of your customers to this experiment and capture data to prove or disprove your hypothesis by checking for statistically significant improvements on customer retention metrics. Currently supported metrics for A/B testing are for customer engagement, customer experience, and monetization. Customer perceived friction rate helps track customer experience and friction created to guard against degrading customer experience. Customer engagement metrics help track customer retention, increases in utterances, and continuous engagement with the skill. Monetization metrics track in-skill purchasing offers, accepts, and purchases. Now that we've looked at A/B testing from your point of view, the skill builder, let's learn how this service benefits your customers. Only a small set of customers participate in your experiments, thus reducing the risk of all your customers being exposed to an potentially suboptimal experience. On contrary, this ensures that the vast majority of your customers observe the most optimal experience at any given point in time. This tool allows skill builders to experiment with different customer experiences and pick the best. With continuous data driven improvements to skills, customers enjoy improved skill quality. Even if you are able to test new changes on a smaller set of customers, you cannot target a particular set of customers. Skill users are randomly selected for experiment and then randomly assigned to control or treatment behavior. Skill builders can only access aggregate metrics and compare these two behaviors. Thus, the privacy of skill users is ensured.
Now that you have understanding about A/B testing, benefits to you and your customers, we will demonstrate skill builder success using A/B testing for common use cases. First use case is in-skill purchasing prompts, that is ISP prompts. Before that, let's understand what ISP and ISP prompts are. ISP lets you sell premium content such as game features and interactive stories in skill. Buying these products in a skill is a seamless experience to a customer. They might ask to shop products, buy products by name, or agree to purchase suggestions that you make during the skill session. ASP prompts are the upsell messages in skill endpoint used to encourage customers to buy these products. Let's dive deep in exact use case and examples. A common use case is A/B testing on ASP prompts by changing the content of it. In this example, we have a skill which performs grocery management and online delivery, which also has an ISP product, recurring delivery. Skill suggests to the customers to buy this product by sending an upsell message. We also support recurring delivery. Would you like to enroll? This experience is the control behavior. The developer wants to try out different upsell message to check if the change can increase conversions. The new prompt that the developer wants to try out is, many users have found recurring deliveries valuable. Would you like to opt in too? To make it more relatable to the customers. Depending on the outcome of the test, you can determine the optimal prompt that will lead to most paid conversions. Another use case with ISP prompt is placement of upsell. You can use A/B testing to compare the placement in different intents in the endpoint code. For these use cases, you can use ASP offers, ASP accepts, ASP offer accept rate, ASP offer purchase success rate metrics to measure the success of A/B testing on ISP prompts. Read what one of our skill builders, Vokala, had to say about this new service. It was impressive to see that the decision they took based on A/B testing resulted in 15% increase in paid conversions. Second use case is for Alexa presentation language, that is APL. APL is used to create visual experience for your skill with graphics, images, slideshows, videos, and animations. APL is a responsive layout language that lets you build visuals to render on Alexa-enabled multimodal devices. You can also build audio responses that mix and layer multiple Alexa voices, sound effects, and background music with APL for audio. You can combine audio and visual responses. Let's check the exact use cases and example for APL. You can experiment with APL Display and APL for audio. For APL Display, you can experiment with placement of images, animations, and other functionalities. For APL for audio, you can change the content of the audio and see if customers find it to be appealing. In this example, you can see that we have a control behavior that has an audio which assumes that the player know how to play the game. And the treatment behavior audio explains the rule on how to play the game. Depending on the outcome of the test, you can determine the optimal APL audio that will lead to increased customer engagement. For these use cases, you can use skill next day retention, skill utterances, skill active day metrics to measure the success of A/B testing on APL. Read what one of our skill building partners had to say about their APL test. They were able to set up experiment in less than an hour and ran the experiment over multiple weeks, which in turn yielded a 7% increase in customer engagement. Third use case is intent response. Intent response is basically a response written by a skill endpoint to customer. Now, let's take a look at example. The use case is to experiment with two versions of intent response. You can change the skill flow as well by changing the intent response to direct customers to use different intent than the current experience. Like in this example, Control behavior is just giving out information about the stocks. But the treatment is encouraging customers to analyze the stock, which has potential of customer engagement increase. For these use cases, you can use customer perceived friction rate, skill next day retention, skill utterances, skill active days metrics to measure the success of A/B testing on intent response. Our partner Vocala plans to use A/B testing to make large variety of design decisions, and specifically for the one skill, they want to understand if they should present intents to end customers. The next use case is related to task. Before diving into it, let's understand what is a task. A task is a piece of user experience that is implemented in an Alexa skill, such as an action that a skill performs. A requester skill uses a skill connection to request a task. The task can be handled by Alexa or provider skill. A provider skill can implement one or more custom tasks, or it can implement predefined tasks created by Amazon. Let's check the exact use case for task and example. The use case is invoking different tasks in requester skill. You can use A/B testing to compare two different task usages. The task can be of different provider skills or different tasks of a same provider skill. In this example, the recipe skill is a requester skill and countdown skill is a provider skill. The skill endpoint is sending a directive to Alexa to skill with only countdown in control and countdown with music in treatment. For these use cases, you can use skill next day retention, skill utterances, skill active day metrics to measure the success of A/B testing on task usage and requester skill. Once you have a great use case for A/B testing, the next thing you will want to know is how to set up an endpoint experiment. Before creating an experiment, there are prerequisites for your skill to be eligible for A/B testing. We currently only support custom skill type. The skill must be live with sufficient traffic to be able to gather metrics and be statistically significant for an experiment. Once your skill is eligible for A/B testing, you are ready to create an experiment. There are 3 phases in experimentation. The first phase is design phase. In this step, you will define your hypothesis, identify metrics, and define the control and treatment experiences. Hypothesis is the goal of predicting or defining the outcome of your test, and metrics are those you will use to measure the effectiveness of your control versus treatment groups. If you want to test the control or treatment experience, you can add yourself as an override to the experiment and pilot the test with 0% traffic exposure. After the testing is complete, you can start the experiment. The next phase is in flight. Once the experiment has started, a predetermined percent of your customers will receive the treatment version of your test. The next phase is analysis. You will review the metrics and check the percentage def, confidence interval, and p-value, which are common terms used in A/B testing. You will be able to make decision. If you are still not confident, you can increase the exposure percent and analyze again. Once you have all the information you need, you will be able to make decision based on the metrics. Now let's see how we can create experiment using Developer Console. To create an experiment, visit the Certification tab, A/B Testing section, and then click on Create as shown here. You will need to populate the configuration details of the experiment, such as experiment name, hypothesis, traffic exposure, and metrics. Then click on Create. You will receive the experiment ID for the created experiment. The experiment ID given will be used in your endpoint code. The main usage of experiment ID in your endpoint code is for validation and for sending the acknowledgement in response to Alexa. The steps to set up endpoint code are validation of experiment ID, obtaining the treatment information from the request, write conditional statements for control and T1 experiments, and return the response accordingly with the acknowledgement. You can see in this example how endpoint code should be configured for Node.js. After changes in your endpoint, if you want to test the experience, you can use override functionality and add yourself to any experience and the subject of the test. To do so, go to A/B testing page, click on Edit, enable Use Experiment Override, select your experience, and click on Save. You will be able to start experiment now. If you want to do the optional testing, select pilot this test. If you want to skip testing, you can directly select Start this test and click on Start. Your customers will be directed as per traffic exposure configured. Once experiment has started, metrics will be populated on analytics page. Based on the results, you can then edit or complete A/B test. Metrics here includes percent difference, confidence interval, and p-value. Percent difference is the relative percent difference between the mean of C and T1 group. Confidence interval is a way of presenting the uncertainty associated with a given measurement for a parameter of interest. P-value is the probability of seeing a particular result from 0, assuming that the null hypothesis is true. Now let's try to interpret this experiment. ISP purchases matrix for T1 has percent difference greater than 0 and p-value is less than 0.05. It is color-coded as purple. It means that it is an upward trend in ISP purchases. That is, T1 is performing well. ISP of matrix for T1 has percent difference less than 0 and p-value is also less than 0.05. It is color-coded as pink, which means that this is a downward trend. T1 is not performing well in this case. Skill active days matrix has p-value greater than 0.05, color-coded as default. It means that it is statistically insignificant. Using this information, you will be able to take decision whether to dial up this experience. Once the results are analyzed, decision is made, you can update your endpoint code to have a better version of the experience. Lastly, you will have to stop the experiment.
In this section, we'll talk about another interesting type of A/B testing, version-based A/B testing. We reviewed endpoint-based A/B testing in this tech talk. We are also in developer preview for another type of A/B testing called version-based A/B testing. You can A/B test different utterances or intent or slot values in the interaction model. This will help increase the confidence on major updates to skill intents or smaller updates to utterances or slot values for customer experience improvements. Please email us if you're interested, and if you're eligible, we'll let you know how to participate. Let's talk about the difference between endpoint-based and version-based A/B testing. But more importantly, which option is right for you? A version of a skill is a snapshot in time of its manifest interaction model in skill products and endpoint code. With version-based A/B testing, you can A/B test between two versions of a skill. So essentially, you can A/B test major changes on interaction models and ISPs themselves. Endpoint-based A/B testing is limited to endpoint code. With this, you can A/B test changes to prompts, APL, and task, etc. For example, with endpoint-based A/B testing, you can try different prompts to increase next-day retention. With version-based A/B testing, you can add new intents to increase next-day retention. In another example, for endpoint-based A/B testing, you can A/B test different tasks on the same intent to observe decrease in customer friction. On the other hand, with version-based, you can A/B test separate intents to support different tasks to decrease customer friction. Let's look at a use case where we have a new version of a skill with new intents supported. Changing interaction model or adding new intents to serve them can be used to revamp a skill or allow customers new ways to interact with it. In this use case, we have a pizza ordering skill. Say you currently support an intent to order in a single go. Something like, Alexa, ask pizza skill to order a gluten-free medium pizza with onion and tomato toppings. That's a bit of a tongue twister. So you hypothesize you can make the skill simpler by making it a more user-friendly interaction model. So you take out all the guesswork in this decision, you create a new version of the skill with multi-turn intent and try it in treatment. In your treatment, you have this multi-turn intent versus your live skill in control. You can continue to observe metrics like customer friction, utterances, and next-day retention to confirm your hypothesis. To recap, we've talked about what is A/B testing and what exactly our endpoint-based A/B testing service provides. We've dwelled into its benefits to you as skill builders and your customers. We've also shared use cases and success stories of your peers. Finally, we've looked into how to set up and run experiments. We also took time to showcase another feature, version based A B testing. I hope this intro has you excited to dig into A B testing yourself and create an experiment. We've only scratched the surface here, and there's a lot more to learn and do. First, I encourage you to follow the A B testing start guide to check the prerequisite, design, and setup of an experiment. If you're wondering the best practices to follow with A B testing, please check the best practices section. Finally, do not hesitate to reach out to either of us on the Alexa Skill Builder community Slack channel. If you are an Alexa developer or thinking about building with Alexa, it is where I would recommend going for help, support, and community. Remember to take this survey and let us know how we did. Thank you so much for joining us today.